Okay, my friends, he is now in big trouble. The main Democrat Senate candidate, in many ways now the poster child of the Democratic Socialists of America, this new rising force within the Democratic Party. He is a self-described communist. We've talked about him on the show multiple times with, I kid you not just a Nazi tattoo, but an SS death's head tattoo that he had for, almost 20 years. Well, it now looks like the wheels may be finally coming off. He has faced numerous accusations of sexual assault. He has faced numerous accusations of sexting. He has faced numerous accusations of the misconduct and assault on women, on top of everything else. But this last allegation now may be the one that sinks him and his campaign. So here is now the absolute latest. Politico now has come out with a 3-part series. Interviews with a woman by the name of Jenny Rassicot. My bad. Jenny Rassicot. She is a rural Maine resident. She is a leftist. She shares Graham Plattner's politics. She apparently was involved in an on-again, off-again relationship with Plattner. So they were on and off. Well, according to her now, 5 years ago, she got a call from Plattner. Plattner, she says, was drunk. He was intoxicated. He wanted to come over. He wanted to have, how shall we say, a roll in the hay. She said, I'm not interested. I'm not in the mood. I'm tired. I have a headache. Don't bother me. Call me tomorrow. Who shows up at the door half an hour later? But apparently, according to her, a drunk, intoxicated Plattner. She says he broke into the house. He then began to force himself on her. In fact, she kept telling him, no, I'm not in the mood. I don't want to do this. According to her, he started to grab her by the pelvis. He began forcing himself onto her. He then allegedly, because apparently she did a lot of sewing in one of her main rooms, he cleared the table. He threw the sewing machine on the ground. There were needles everywhere. It became almost a dangerous situation with all the sharp edges and the needles. And he raped her. According to her, this was a pure sexual assault, a rape. And she said she kept it quiet because she wanted to keep her privacy. She didn't want her privacy to be violated, knowing that this would turn her world upside down, being at the center of a massive media firestorm. But she said she felt she had no choice. She needed the world to know who the real Graham Plattner is, according to her. And Jenny Rassicot says he is an alleged rapist, a stone-cold rapist in her view. Listen now to Jenny Rassicot on This Is CNN saying, I got this knock on the door after I told him no, and my life changed at that moment. Roll cut 11, Mike.
It was a night where him and I were texting back and forth, and he had taken something that I said as an invitation, and that's not how he meant it, and I quickly clarified. And he sent a message back indicating that he would come over, and I said, no, don't come over. Like, I'm not in the mood, don't come over. And I was more stern with that message. And then I didn't hear back from him, so I thought that that meant he got the message or gave up on it or whatnot. And so like half an hour later, I heard a noise outside my door, and then he He came in. He just came into my house. It was unlocked. I live in an area where you don't usually have to lock your doors. I do now. So he came in, and I realized, okay, he didn't listen. He's in my home. And I was laying on the couch. It was probably pretty late at night, and I was already ready for bed. I just wasn't in bed.
And then he saw her on the couch. And then, apparently in a drunken state, he made his move. Roll cut 11A, Mike.
So he had kind of jumped on top of me and indicated that he had intentions that were sexual in nature. And I remember just at first being like, hey, I'm not into this. I'm not in the mood. Don't, whatever. And it got to the point where I was like, okay, I feel like I've said this enough times. He's not listening to me, or he's not hearing me. And I looked at him, and I remember this very specific look in his eyes. And I could smell alcohol, and I was like, this is different. He is heavily intoxicated. And that blank stare was kind of like a photographic memory that I still have of that night. And his... that was me recognizing what the situation was, and this wasn't just oh, hey, somebody showed up and I'm going to tell him to go home. He was heavily intoxicated, had intentions with me.
And then she tried to fight him off, and she says after a while she couldn't fight him off, and then she said she had to make a decision, according to her. I'm just giving you the story from Jenny Rasicot's point of view. She said that she felt if she continued to fight him off, he was going to get violent, he was drunk, he was getting angry, and that he could seriously hurt her, maybe even kill her. So she had no choice, and the whole time, and forgive me, this is quite heavy stuff to take, all she kept hoping was that he was wearing a contraceptive. And she just then said, look, forget it. Let him just do his thing, and maybe he'll let me live. And maybe he won't harm me or kill me. Now, Jake Tapper asks her point blank, were you raped? Was this a full-fledged rape? Listen now to Jenny Rasicot's answer. Roll cut 11E, Mike.
Did Graham Plattner rape you?
By definition, yes. Absolutely.
Because he had non-consensual sex with you?
Yeah.
Forced himself on you? Mm-hmm. Even after you had told him no and fought him off?
Yeah. He violated multiple layers of consent that night by coming into my home when I asked him not to, and by advancing on me when I told him not to. And furthermore, another incident that I had told him not to do. And
with protection.
Yeah. So, yeah. By the way that my nervous system reacted to this experience, absolutely.
Basically, she's saying she shut down. She just shut down, knowing that she was being sexually violated and sexually raped. Let me just play one more cut, because it's a very important cut. Because this is the cut. The rape is horrendous. But this is the cut now that is forcing Democrats to now disavow him. And everybody who's endorsed him is now withdrawing their endorsements. It's unbelievable what's happened in the last 24 hours. The main Democratic Party has pulled their endorsement. Elizabeth Warren now is running from him. Chuck Schumer, who embraced him, now he's running from him. Every Democrat now is running for the hills. Nobody supported him. Nobody endorsed him, allegedly. And it's this. He didn't just rape her, but she feared had she fought back, he would have either seriously harmed or maimed her, or maybe even kill her. Roll cut 11F, Mike.
I remember it being an instant where I had recognized that he wasn't listening to me. It wasn't just that he wasn't hearing me or whatnot. And then I recognized his level of intoxication, and I knew in that moment I wasn't safe. And I don't think I was safe to physically fight back. He's big, he's strong, and I just had to evaluate my safety and come up with the least worst outcome to the situation. And so I felt like complying for my safety was the least worst option.
Okay, so now Graham Plattner denies the allegation. I'm going to play you the video that he sent out in response to this. He called the allegations, his words, troubling, serious, but categorically false. He says that if she's alleging non-consensual behavior, he says that is absolutely categorically false. So he's saying we had sex, yes, but it was consensual. That's what he's claiming. Now, he says they've canceled all their campaign events in the foreseeable future. Okay, Graham Plattner now politically on the ropes, and it may be the end. We shall see. Pressure is now building on him to step aside for another candidate. I'll get into the details because the timing of this allegation is now being questioned by many, many people. They're not saying it's not true, obviously, but the timing that Politico would come out with this story now, 1 week exactly to the day, which is the deadline. After that point, Graham Plattner will be the nominee in November. They can't take him off the ballot. However, if Graham Plattner were to leave before next week's deadline, then there's no question that they can replace him with another candidate, someone who they think would do much better against Senator Susan Collins, who they desperately need to defeat if the Democrats want to take back control of the Senate. In fact, they're now looking at Governor Janet Mills as to be basically the replacement. So they're looking to pull a Biden, a switcheroo. Biden was damaged goods. He couldn't win, especially after his dreadful performance on CNN in his debate. And so they just tossed him aside and then replaced him with Kamala Harris. The speculation now is this is exactly what they're doing with Plattner. The polls show he is losing to Susan Collins. That all of the revelations over the last couple of months have been bleeding him and bleeding him and bleeding him in the polls. Apparently, he's not raising a lot of money anymore. So his fundraising is down. The momentum, the energy that he once had is gone. That he's now underwater when it comes going head to head with Senator Susan Collins. And so the Democratic establishment fears that Plattner is going to be destroyed in November, and with it, their hopes of capturing or recapturing the Senate. So this is perfectly timed to knock Plattner out and then to replace him. And she's also a far left Democrat. I mean, it's Janet Mills is no moderate, but she's not Graham Plattner. Plattner is the self-described communist. He's a virulent anti-Semite. He is a hater of Israel, a hater of the Jews. He's the guy with the Nazi tattoo that many Democrats, frankly, especially women, and I don't know why, found it sexy and appealing and romantic and intoxicating. So the sex appeal that he brought now seems to be fizzling. And so they now are looking to take him out. This is the allegation that may take him out just in time. Next week is the deadline. To this day, next week, next week is the deadline. Next Tuesday is the deadline. So if he hangs on until next Tuesday, having won the primary, if he decides to stay in the race, there's nothing the Democrats can do to stop him from being the nominee going into November. However, if they can get him to step down, and then they have enough time to replace him with another replacement candidate, as I said, most likely the governor, and then they can change the dynamics of the race because they believe that in polls, Mills will do better against Collins than Plattner. So there is a lot of political cynicism and political maneuvering that's now taking place behind the scenes. Now, very, very quick. Plattner denies this. He came out, issued a formal statement, then he went on X. He issued his own video, and he says, no. He says, listen, we had sex. She was my girlfriend, or on again, off again. I had multiple girlfriends. And I may have been, 6 sheets to the wind, which was often the case. But I did not have non-consensual sex. This was not a rape. Roll cut 10, Mike.
I wanted to directly address the troubling, serious, and false allegations against me. Any accusation of non-consensual behavior is categorically false. Over the last 10 months, I have been deeply humbled by the faith Mainers have put in me. You have welcomed me into your homes, into your places of work, into your restaurants, into your houses of worship. You have shown that a different kind of politics, one that puts the interests of people over corporations, is not just possible, but is inevitable. This movement we have built, the largest volunteer base in the history of Maine politics, the hundreds of thousands of grassroots donors, and the supporters across the ideological spectrum, we were united in a love of Maine, a belief that our politics must change, and a focus on defeating Susan Collins.
But, and then he does say they were categorically false. He then went on to say that, however, even though they're false, even though they're not true, he says because of the political impact this allegation could have on his campaign and on his ability to defeat Susan Collins, he now has canceled many campaign events. In fact, he's canceled all campaign events for the next couple days at least, all town hall events, all town hall meetings. He's now reflecting his words, and now he has to evaluate what's the best path forward, meaning, should I resign and step aside with the looming deadline next week? Roll cut 10A, Mike.
So, regardless of the inaccuracy of the reporting, but mindful of the political reality it will inflict, we are taking the time to reflect on the best path forward for the state that I love, the people that I love, the movement I belong to, and the goal of defeating Susan Collins. Those were the goals when we launched this campaign, and they remain my goals today. On June 9th, 154,058 Mainers, the most in primary history, voted to reject a broken politics beholden to Washington and the donor class. They voted for hope, for change, to take back our economy, to take back our power, and to take back our Senate seat. Throughout it all, you never turned your back on me, and I will not turn my back on you now. Every one of you deserves to see that vision come to fruition and see Susan Collins defeated, and we will use every tool at our disposal to do so.
So, look, my advice to Graham Plattner is this. Not that he would take my advice, but anyway, let me give it anyway. If you're an innocent man, as you claim, if this is a false allegation, a smear campaign against you, as you're alleging, don't drop out. Why would you drop out? If you're truly an innocent man, and I if is the key word. I underlined the word if. Well, then stand your ground, defend your honor, defend your innocence, and say, no, I won the primary fair and square. Okay, let me make a few points, and then I want to go to the calls. 617-266-6868. Couple lines are open if you want to jump on. Let me just ask a couple of basic questions first. Number one, do you believe Jenny Rassicot? I'm just curious. Do you believe her? Do you believe that Graham Plattner did rape her in her home or sexually assault her? I'm just curious. That's number one. Or do you think this is politically timed? A politically expedient bombshell to knock him out in favor of the Democrat establishment candidate, which is Janet Mills. So is this, was this ultimately a setup to take out Plattner because they looked at the polls and they saw that he couldn't beat Collins And the Democrats openly admit they must win the Maine Senate seat if they have any chance of recapturing the Senate. They have to win back 4 seats in order to regain the majority, and they have to win Maine. If they don't win Maine, they don't retake the Senate, period. It's that simple. So that's why all eyes have been on this race. It is of huge importance, not just in Maine, not just in New England, but the balance of control in the Senate. So it's got massive national attention. So should Plattner step down? Or he's got another week. He just says, I'm not leaving. That's all he's got to say is, I'm not resigning. I'm not stepping aside. The deadline is July 14, which is a week from today. And once that deadline comes and goes, there is no way the Democrats can replace him on the ticket. If he steps down anytime this week before the deadline, then they still have the time to put a replacement candidate, again, not to beat a dead horse, most likely Janet Mills, the governor, and they believe, in the polls at least, that she can give Susan Collins a much better fight, a much better run for her money, and make it a much more competitive race than things stand right now with Plattner. So, should Plattner step aside, or should he stand there and hold his ground? Now, politically, let me just lay my cards on the table. I think it's better for the Republicans that he stays. I think he's now clearly damaged goods. I think it was obvious from almost the very beginning that he was damaged goods. This man is a pig. This man is an animal. And it doesn't matter whether you believe Jenny Rassicot or not. The Nazi tattoo should have told you everything you needed to know about what kind of a monster this man is. And then all of the sexting. And then all of the other women. And let me make another very important point. When a woman, Ms. Fifield, I believe that's how you pronounce her last name, when she said, I dated him for a while, and he assaulted me. The Democrats, believe all women. They refuse to believe her. Why? Because her politics tend to be more conservative. Now, Plattner didn't care. He was dating her. They were together for a while. But she's the one that said he was emotionally, verbally abusive. He would twist her arm when they argued or yank her out of a cab. He's the one that put his arm behind her back and forcibly threw her into a bedroom and locked the door on her. Then they didn't believe all women. Ro Khanna had no problem campaigning with Graham Plattner. Elizabeth Warren had no problem endorsing Graham Plattner. AOC and Bernie were with Plattner, side by side on stage, helping him raise money. Chuck Schumer had no problem with Plattner. The Nazi tattoo, no problem. Assaulting other women, no problem. Sexting other women, no problem. Now, all of a sudden, because this woman, and she says she shares Plattner's politics. In fact, let me play you the cut. Because Tapper says, well, what do you say to the argument, that this is politically motivated? And listen to her response saying, what politically motivated? I share Plattner's communist politics. I'm a far, far left progressive. In fact, to me, what's stunning is she says it's one of the key reasons why I didn't come out with the allegations. Because I felt I wanted our side to win. And I felt we needed one of our own in the Senate. So I held my fire. I held my tongue. Roll cut 11B. Mike.
There are going to be people, maybe even his campaign, certainly his supporters, who say this is politically motivated. What would you say to that?
I couldn't disagree more. That was actually one of the reasons that I didn't come out.
Because you agree with his politics.
I do. I really agree with his politics. I think we need somebody with those political stances and who are willing to do the work. And I see his political videos. They get me fired up as well. I understand why people want someone like him in office. And I felt like me coming forward would essentially potentially take that away. And I felt really uncomfortable with the responsibility of and the weight of my story and what that might do.
Look, am I the only one? And look, you know me. I always give women, when they make this kind of a serious charge, and outside of murder, there's nothing more serious than rape. I always give women the benefit of the doubt. I just do. That's the way I am. So I'm always inclined to believe a woman when she alleges rape. Okay, to be honest, my first inclination is to believe the woman. But this happened 5 years ago. I'm always suspicious. You didn't call the police right after the rape 5 years ago? You wait 5 years later? So that makes me a little suspicious. Now, here's the other thing that makes me suspicious. When the New York Times did a profile of the women that he allegedly mistreated or there was misconduct, I mentioned Fifield. And because she's more conservative, nobody suddenly cared that he, was physically violent with her, that he assaulted her, that he, would yell at her, berate her, mistreat her, twist her arm, toss her into a room and lock the door like an animal. Nobody cared. But they did interview Jenny Rassicot. They interviewed her. But she didn't at the time say she was raped or sexually assaulted by Plattner. What she just said was, he's not a good influence on women. I'm almost quoting verbatim now. And that some of his behavior was, quote, reckless and, quote unquote, unsettling. She never said rape. She never said sexual assault. She said reckless and unsettling. Her words. And she said, I don't recommend that any woman have anything to do with him. So she's basically was saying, look, he's a scumbag. That's what she was saying. But she didn't say he was a rapist and a sexual predator. Now, those are two different things. Those are two very different things. Now, when they need this guy to be politically decapitated, when they need a political kill shot, suddenly they roll her out to CNN. They roll her out to Politico, which are two pro-Democrat establishment outlets. And again, I'm not saying he didn't rape her. Listen, who's going to defend this guy? With his past, his record, the way this guy treats women, he's a pig. He's a pig. But I'm just saying, you don't find this a little suspicious? She says nothing in the first interview. She says, with the New York Times, she says nothing for 5 years. She even says, I kind of didn't even want to say anything because I share his politics and I didn't want to bury the guy politically. Well, I'm sorry, ma'am. Were you raped or were you not raped? Because if you're raped, to me, it's a no-brainer. His politics are irrelevant. You want a rapist to be in the Senate? So there is something about this. I'm sorry. It smells. It's politically coordinated. It's politically motivated. And I think they're doing to Plattner what they did to Biden, the old switcheroo. Okay, Plattner now may be gone. We'll see what happens. He may step aside. He may not. He's now meeting with his advisors. However, his campaign is collapsing. There is now no question about it. And the final nail in his coffin, it is a dagger, is by Jenny Rassicot and her explosive allegation where she says that Plattner, 5 years ago, when they were in an on-again, off-again relationship, called up, said he wanted to come over. She said, no, I'm not in the mood. He showed up half an hour later anyway, according to her, intoxicated, drunk, forced himself into the house, and then sexually assaulted and raped her. She now says she's coming forward because she wants people to know who and what the real Graham Plattner is. Schumer has disavowed him. Elizabeth Warren has disavowed him. Everyone now has the main Democratic Party, all of it, the entire leadership is calling on him to step aside. And with a week still left before the deadline, so they can replace him with another candidate of their choice. And so the question now is, will Plattner step down? Should Plattner step down? What say you? Andy in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Andy, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Andy?
Good. Hey, the offer still stands. If you want to move to New Hampshire, you're welcome. I got land here. You're a half an hour from your job. You're right in. We'll build you a nice house out back.
Oh, thank you, Andy. I appreciate it.
When you're ready and sick and tired of Massachusetts, you're welcome up here.
Andy, if only I was the one making the decisions in my house.
I know. It's tough when you got younger kids.
And the wife. The wife and the kids.
And the wife and everybody.
I'm out, speaking of outgunned and overwhelmed. It's 3-1, Andy. I'm surrounded. But I do appreciate it. Thank you so much. Andy, what do you make of this?
What I make of this is I'm just going to give you my scenario. It's, if you will, it's like the cockroaches are running for the cracks right now because of the simple fact that when you see, Elizabeth Warren, Chief Fullable, if we'll call her, that's her name, Chief Fullable.
That's
correct?
right. Yep, right. That's my nickname for her, Chief Fullable.
If she's Fullable, no doubt. If she did her homework first and found out a little bit of background check things and knew, then she wouldn't have made the statement, "Oh, he's my man." Remember when she came out with that, "He's my man." He's
my kind of man. Even
he's
worse.
My kind of
he's
man.
Of my kind of man. That's unbelievable. But anyway, please keep going, Andy.
So Jeff, I'm going to say what you say. You phony you. I love that when you say that. I just love that. That's what she is. She's a phony. I've had a sign up, on my property. I'm the man of many signs up here in southern New Hampshire because I voice myself with signs, and people know that. They see all the signs. But anyways, now she's, of course, running for the cracks, saying no, no, no. And you know what? This is a bad decision that she made. And how many bad decisions has she made with the Americans' hardworking money? And it's just, you have to wonder, do they just jump into something and then, I'm changing my mind now. Now, what if it was some political vote or, something that was very important? You just can't change your mind and switch horses in the middle of the stream.
Well, Andy, what it shows ultimately, and I think you put your finger on it, they don't care. They just don't care. That was Sandy's point to me in our pre-show meeting. She was adamant, and I agreed with her completely. She goes, Jeff, look, just stand back. This was her, not me. She said, the guy had an SS tattoo for 20 years that he proudly wore on his chest. He's a monster. And he only covered it up when he decided to run for office for the Senate. And they knew that. And then he's going on about how women who get raped deserve to be raped. And then you've got him sexting, what is it, half a dozen to a dozen women, 6 months into his marriage. And then you've got him, other women saying he sexually assaulted us, but they happen to be conservative. So they said, we don't care. So ultimately, they don't care because they thought he was a winner. He was getting those big crowds. He got the millennials, Gen Z. He was going town to town. He was bashing the wealthy, the rich, corporations. He was a communist. He was in bed with Bernie and AOC. Mamdani loved him. He was the poster child of this radical communist left that's now taking over the entire Democratic Party. And they said, hey, let's jump on that bandwagon. The guy's going to go all the way, and he'll knock off Senator Susan Collins. She knew he's a Nazi. She knew he assaulted women. She knew he mistreated women. She knew this guy's an animal. But she doesn't care. Until now, it's gotten to the point. You see, what's changed is this. If he was still riding high in the polls and the money was pouring into his campaign coffers, they'd be destroying this woman, Jenny Rassicot. They would level her. But instead, his poll numbers have slipped. Poll after poll now, he can't beat Collins. Collins is ahead in the polls. He's got no more mojo, no more juice, as they say, because it's been a death of 1,000 cuts. And apparently his fundraising has collapsed as well. So what they see now is a political loser. That's all that matters to them. Can we get back power? And they're like, no, we can't. This guy won't do it for us. Okay, so roll out this Jenny Rassicot, send her to Politico, send her to Fake Tapper, let her go on about how this guy raped her, because now I guess they've given her the green light. And now she's going on about how this guy assaulted and raped her. And you can't put her, according to her now, you can't put a rapist in the Senate. But for 5 years, she had no problem having a rapist in the Senate, potentially. But now she says you can't put a rapist in the Senate. And like clockwork, I mean, you could see it, Andy. That, to me, was so obviously coordinated and staged. She came out with the Politico interview. She goes straight to CNN. The interview on CNN airs. Within, I'm talking 2 minutes, Schumer, Kirsten Gillibrand, the senator from New York, she runs the Senate campaign. She's chair of the Senate campaign committee. So she, dishes out money to all the Senate campaigns for the Democrat nominees. Gillibrand says, I've pulled my support. Schumer, I've pulled my support. Ro Khanna, I've pulled my support. Bernie, I've pulled my support. Elizabeth Warren, I've pulled my support. So suddenly, all of his allies are defecting. All of his allies are now abandoning ship within a span of 2 to 4 minutes. So they were given a heads up. This is going to come out. We're going to go with the Rassicot story. He's not a winner. He's going to lose against Collins. The polling numbers are horrendous. And let's sink this guy like the Titanic. While we still have the deadline, 1 week before the deadline, to replace him with someone else. And by the way, Andy, that's their playbook. They've done it so often now. The most notorious was Biden. They stuck with Biden and covered up for Biden and lied for Biden until, oh no, we can't cover it up anymore. He's going to lose to Trump. It's obvious. Okay, kick him out. Just now dump him and replace. Now, Andy, let me put my cards on the table and I want to get your reaction. Look, I'm sorry. And you know me, I hate rapists with every fiber in my being. I think they're scum. I think they should get the death penalty, if you want to know the truth. But the fact of the matter is, the people of Maine knew exactly who this man was. They knew he was a sexual predator. They knew what he thought about women who were raped. He had no respect for them. They knew he assaulted and sexually assaulted other women. They happened to be conservatives, but they were still women. They knew about his Nazi tattoo. They knew about his very radical anti-Semitic views. They knew about the fact that he's a self-described communist. They knew how much he hates his own country. So they knew the monster that he was, the animal that he is. They voted for him in a primary. Now, to me, I'm sorry. He won fair and square. Why should he have to step aside? And let him now lose to Susan Collins, and he's going to get destroyed. Number one. And number two, let him be the poster child for the Democrats for the next, 4 or 5 months until November. In other words, you laid in bed with the devil. Now you've made your bed. Now you lie in it. That's what they did. They laid in bed with the devil. I'm not willing to let them off the hook. So personally, I hope Plattner stays on. I hope this guy gives him the middle finger and says, screw. I won the primary. Why should I be replaced by Janet Mills? I beat Janet Mills. And if he's innocent, like he says he is, if he truly believes what he's saying, why should he step aside? I wouldn't. If a woman falsely accused me of rape, I wouldn't step aside. So let him stay. And see, now that's the problem they have. It's not just that he's going to cost them Maine and the Senate, Andy, because they need Maine to take back the Senate. It's that now he's an albatross around their neck in races all across the country. Because now he's become the poster child, the face of the Democratic Party. A rapist, a Nazi, a Jew hater, a communist, a sexual predator. They're in trouble. And now they're trying to throw him under the bus. Andy, final word. Agree, disagree?
Jeff, I totally agree. And just one more statement. Chief Fullable is the biggest Indian giver, you might say. First you give it, then you take it. Okay? She's known as the Indian giver in my world now. So I may have to start putting up my political signs again, Jeff.
Andy, thank you very much for that call. I really, really appreciate it. Look, I want to ask you, the audience, and, we can agree to disagree. I'm just giving you my honest opinion and take on this. By the way, I haven't quite made up my mind whether he actually did rape her. I'll be honest. Is he a sexual predator? Yes. Is he a pig? Yes. Is he unfit to be in the Senate? No question. Okay, no question. But on this specific case, remember, I thought he was unfit from the previous allegations, which I thought were completely convincing and compelling and irrefutable. But this particular allegation from Jenny Rassicot, I mean, I tend to side with women. I just tend to believe women. I find it hard that they would ever lie about something like this, something this serious and this life-changing. But the fact that she held it for 5 years, I'm just giving you her reasons, that she held it for 5 years and then said, well, I share his politics and I want a guy like him in the Senate. So I didn't want to damage our cause. So I held my tongue until I couldn't hold my tongue. I mean, if you're raped, you tell me. I'd like to, especially women in particular, if they could weigh in on this, I'd appreciate it. If you're raped, are you going to hold your tongue for 5 years? A, and then B, say, well, the guy that raped me, yeah, he raped me. He came into my home drunk, broke in. I was afraid he was going to kill me, threaten me, harm me. And he rapes me. But I don't want to lose the Senate. Politically, this is going to hurt my side. So maybe I won't say anything. And she gave an interview, as I said, a couple of weeks ago to the New York Times. That's when the allegations began to come out. Other women said they were sexually assaulted, but they tended to be more conservative. And I thought her answer was always weird. She came out and said, well, I had a bad experience with him, and I think he shouldn't be in the Senate. And that women shouldn't date him. Because what I, quote, saw was reckless and unsettling. And I remember at the time when I read it, and this was in the New York Times, I'm like, well, what's reckless and unsettling? What, is he a womanizer? Does he cheat on you? I mean, don't get me wrong. I think cheating on your girlfriend or, your spouse or whatever is disgusting. But it's not a crime. What the others were alleging was, this guy sexually assaults women. This he's a sexual predator. What she's alleging now, he can go to jail for. It's rape. It's one of the most serious crimes you can allege against somebody. So I'm not sure if I fully believe her story, if you want to know the truth. I think it's awfully convenient now that it's come out. I think it's clearly orchestrated that they're leaking it now with 1 week before the deadline. I think there's no question. There's no question. But, I'm just being honest with you. So now, to be fair to her, she says that she has documentation, emails between herself and her therapist, emails between herself and her subsequent boyfriend, I guess about the trauma or what she experienced that night. So she says there's other information that she has to corroborate her story. And the fact that this guy's shameless. This guy's utterly shameless. For him to suddenly now, all of a sudden say, well, I'm rethinking my campaign, and the word is he may drop out, well, then that to me is pretty damning. If he drops out, he probably then, did something wrong that night. That's for sure. But anyway, I want to ask all of you, double-barreled question. What do you make of this? Is Plattner going to go down? Should he go down? And do you believe Jennifer Rassicot? And what does this say about the Democratic Party? 617-266-6868 is the number. Sal in Wakefield. Thanks for holding, Sal, and welcome. Sal, Sal, are we interrupting your easy listening in the morning? Sal put us on hold. Okay. All right. Let's see if we can reconnect with Sal. Okay. She was asked point blank, why did you come forward now? Why now? You said nothing for 5 years. You did say a lot of it was his politics. You wanted someone like him to be in the Senate. And you said, well, my privacy, I didn't want to see my privacy violated if I came out. And, you gave the interview to the New York Times. You really held back. You didn't mention anything about a rape or a sexual assault. So, why now? Listen to her answer. This was with Tapper on CNN. Roll cut 11D, Mike.
One of the biggest ones is that I think that there are a lot of men in this world relying on the silence of women and to be where they are. And I don't want to contribute to that. I also want to just get my life back.
So she wanted to get her life back. She wanted to get it out of her system. She wanted, that she didn't want him to be counting on her silence to empower or enable his continued sexual assaults and his predatory behavior against women. And so she felt I had to expose this pig and this monster for who and what he is. So my question to you, let me set the table and then I'm going to come back and take calls. 617-266-6868 is the number. Plattner now in serious discussions on whether to drop out of the race. He can still do it for one more week. If he does, the main Democrat establishment will pick a candidate to replace him. He's behind against Susan Collins. The Democrats are in full panic mode. They want him out. Should Plattner step down? Number one. Number two, do you believe Jenny Rassicot? Is Graham Plattner a rapist? Okay, just very, very quickly, I made a slight error, and I just want to correct it for the record, because I always want to give you nothing but 100% accurate information. So, according to Maine state law, this is Maine state law, a candidate who withdraws from the November ballot, i.e. Plattner, by July 13, so it's not, I said the 14th, it's actually the 13th, so forgive me. So it's Monday, this coming Monday, after this weekend. So, under Maine state law, a candidate who withdraws from the November ballot by July 13 may be replaced by his or her political party by July 27. So they will have essentially 2 weeks. So say Plattner steps down anytime this week, as long as it's before July 13, then the Maine Democratic Party will have the ability. There's no primary, there's no vote, there's no democracy, nothing like that. Like they did with Kamala when they replaced Joe. They will handpick a person to replace Plattner. The betting odds say it will be Governor Janet Mills, but who knows? And then that person will be put on the ballot for November. However, if Plattner stays on past July 13, then he cannot be replaced. Or if Plattner steps down before July 13, but they don't agree to a replacement or a successor by July 27, then after that date, the party would likely have no ability. They have no ability to place a new nominee on the ballot. So this is why everything has to happen this week. They have to get Plattner to either volunteer to resign or to basically force him to step aside. And hence this explosive bombshell. And it's now everywhere in the media. And all of these supporters in a coordinated fashion have now dropped their support and endorsements. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let me ask you. It is the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's quality roofing, siding, and windows. Do you believe Jenny Rassicot when she says Graham Plattner raped her? A, yes. B, no. I think I'm a yes. I mean, I find the whole thing, the timing, and it's clearly a political operation. So I do find some of it suspicious and really unseemly. But yeah, knowing Plattner, his background, the scumbag that he is, yeah, I probably believe her. But anyway, it's up to you. I'm just curious. That's my opinion. I want to hear from you. Do you believe Jenny Rassicot when she says Graham Plattner raped her? A, yes. B, no. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhn as in National ER. You can also vote via X, my handle there, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, at the Kuhner Report, Kuhn as in National ER. Sal in Wakefield. Thanks for holding, Sal, and welcome.
Good morning. Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Sal.
I think that he's a scumbag, but if he's smart, he's waiting for a Bernie deal. What did Bernie get? A house on Lake Champlain?
Yes.
To bow out of the... So, I mean, that's probably what he's doing. He's negotiating a deal. I mean, don't you think?
Oh, I agree. I think you're, as I like to say, Sal, not 100, you're 1,000% correct. When he says, I have to reflect on what's the best path forward, I got to talk to my advisors, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, and Sal, when he came out and said, oh, it's categorically false. It's false. But the impact it could have on the election, on the race, on other Democrats, and the mission, Sal, it's to beat Susan Collins. I may have to step aside. Now, Sal, let me ask you, if you're running a campaign and you've spent nearly 2 years on that campaign and you started in relative, political obscurity, nobody knew who you really were, and you're the outsider, and you beat the sitting governor in a primary, and you get the most votes in the history of the Democratic primary or any primary for your state, and some woman comes out and accuses you of rape, and you know it's false, you know it's a lie, would Sal in Wakefield drop out?
Well, is A, B. I'm picking C. Not sure. Because when I heard it yesterday, I was skeptical, and I thought about it. And it's like, she comes out and says, well, I have the same politics as him. That doesn't mean anything to me because the Democrats, they're so ruthless, they'll eat their own. So they'll pick the Democrat. It doesn't matter to make up a story, or they want him out because they know he probably can't win. So it's.
No, I hear you, Sal. He's waiting to look. They're going to make him an offer he can't refuse. Mike in Lynn, thanks for holding, Mike, and welcome.
Jeff, long-time listener, first-time caller.
Welcome, Mike.
You truly disappointed me this morning.
Really? How?
Before your opening monologue.
How did I do that, Mike?
4 words. Good morning, Kuhner country. Was missing.
Oh, I didn't say it?
No.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Mike. Sorry, we were just scrambling behind the scenes. Some stuff had to get done. I am so sorry. Jeez.
Maybe I'm the only one that picked it up.
Mike, thank you for telling me. Now, I'm speaking to a different Mike now, Mike. I'm talking to Mike, Mike Jones here at the who's running the board in the booth. Mike, what the hell, dude? How come you didn't tell me? Mike, he's saying you think I noticed that? I mean, it's your job, Mike, for God's sake. So, Mike, my deepest apologies. I feel bad. I feel like I've let you all down. That's my signature. That's how I come in, That's how I start the show every morning.
I didn't know if I was listening to the real Jeff Kuhner or AI.
No. Look, let me say it now, Mike. Good morning, Kuhner country. Mike, thank you. Mike and Lynn, you looking for a job? I think I need somebody like you in the booth, Mike. Somebody that, has my back. Mike, my friend, what do you make of all this?
Well, somebody that goes around with a Nazi tattoo and a death skull for over 10 years, and he knew being a Marine. Come on, he knew what it was.
Oh, he definitely knew. I mean, all the women that were with him said not only did he know, he was bragging about it. He was proud of it. And then, Mike, the other thing, him being a Marine, I saw that video. I almost physically puked. I almost threw up when he was mocking one of our soldiers who was fighting off the Taliban, taking bullets. He got shot 4 times. And he almost didn't make it. And he was fighting off the Taliban so his other 7, buddies could make an escape. And he's making fun of him. And he's saying, he should have been shot dead. And I mean, this he's sick in the head. He's sick in the head. Calling for our soldiers to be murdered, mocking our soldiers. I mean, I could go on and on and on. I can't believe they voted for him. Mike, honestly, that when I saw that these Democrats voted for him in that primary, I said, this is a party now that's completely lost its soul. And now it turns out, Mike, they were willing to send a rapist to the Senate. I think there's no question. They were willing now to send a rapist to the Senate. Oh, I did say good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, so now some of the callers are calling in, Mike. They're saying that I did say good morning, Kuhner country. So, no, what amazes me, Mike, is that the top 2 producers on the show, the executive producer, Sandy, and the assistant producer, Mike, don't know if I said good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, so now you're saying I did say it. All right. Well, Mike, listen, thank you for calling and thank you for having my back because I always appreciate it. 617-266-6868. Mark in Milton. Thanks for holding, Mark, and welcome.
Hi, good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Mark.
I believe the woman, but for a very disturbing reason. I'm going to hearken back to the Democrat convention where they anointed Kamala. And I don't know if you remember, but women were coming out and saying that they wanted to get pregnant just so that they could have an abortion. And I can't think of anything more evil than that. And I think overall, there's an evil that's taking over these people. And I think this woman was raped. But I think that she's saying, for the party, I'm going to take it for the party. And as long as he was a viable candidate, she kept her mouth shut. And now the party has come to her and said, he's no longer viable. So we need you to come out and admit what happened.
You nailed it. You nailed it. You absolutely nailed it. It's like a puzzle, a jigsaw puzzle. You put all the pieces together. I think you're absolutely dead on. Because when she describes it in such detail, I'm like, yeah, no, I believe her. You know, but then the timing, right? So you're like, but the timing is so suspicious and so political. So then you say to yourself, well, is she lying? You know, but I think now you've connected the dots. I think you're absolutely dead on. Absolutely dead on. So I think you nailed it. The party. So she was raped, but for the sake of the party, say nothing. Keep quiet. Okay, New York Times is going to call you soft pedal it, or they'll soft pedal it to cover up for Plattner. You know, it was reckless, unsettling. You shouldn't date the guy. You know, I would advise, going out with the guy. You know, he's not the best with women. Okay, let me just say that. And she basically, you're right. I think she covered up for him until the fact, and this is what's changed. Even, a month ago, he was neck and neck or ahead in the polls. Now he's behind in the polls, and the fundraising is drying up. The money's drying up, and people now have settled. The cake's been baked. About 55% of people in Maine say they're not going to vote for him no matter what. So they're like, he can't win. There's no way this guy's going to win. And now that he can't win, they went to her and say, spill the beans. Let the cat out of the bag. Now it's okay for the party to let everybody know that he allegedly raped you. Mark, I think you're absolutely 1,000% dead on. Mark, will this sink him? Or is this guy crazy enough to stay in the race? What say you?
I think he may stay in the race, but can I tie two more things to this that I think are
you're on a roll. Keep going, my friend.
First of all, ahead of time, they had the questions that, as you call him, Fake Tapper was going to ask. And that's how she was so able to convey her message so clearly and pointedly. And that's, and again, I do think she was raped. And let's compare this to the testimony and lies that E. Jean Carroll was successful with against the greatest president that this country has ever seen. These things we're up against an evil, and we need to understand that. And yes, I hope and pray he stays in, because he is as evil, if not more so. And along with that comes, a certain amount of hubris. He doesn't need a gift from the party to drop out. He comes from a wealthy family. I think, and I hope he stays in. But the next week or so will tell.
Mark, by the way, this is a dynamite call. Can you do me a big favor? After the break, I am going to play a cut. If you can continue listening to the show, I want you to hear it, because it goes right to your point about how this party has no soul and just how evil and diabolical the Democrats have become. I've got a cut for you. I'm going to play it on the other side. It's going to blow your mind. It's going to blow this audience's mind away. away. And it's gonna shock you. If anything can still shock you, it will shock you. And I think you've absolutely nailed it. This party is so evil now. It has so lost its soul. It's almost like, taken over by the devil. And to me, I said this about Plattner a while back. I said he's demonic. And here you're going to have an evil monster. Let him be the poster child. It's going to cost them Maine. They will not win with him in Maine. They know it. And I believe it's going to cost them many other races across the country. So please don't get me wrong. Do I think he's a rapist? Yes. Do I eventually want him to go to jail? You better believe it. Keep him on the ballot. Okay. If you want to see how evil the Democratic Party has become, as the previous caller, Mark, put it, no soul. Literally, they have no soul left. I want you to listen now to this cut. So here is Jenny Rassicot. She's, alleging that, Graham Plattner raped her. And so Tapper on CNN asks her, well, how do your she said, she's a diehard progressive. She's a socialist. And she says one of the reasons why she kept her, held her tongue was she didn't want to hurt Plattner because she wanted Plattner to take back the Senate, defeat Susan Collins and help the Democrats take back the Senate. And that's why she held her tongue for so long. So Jake Tapper asked her, well, all of your progressive socialist friends, now that you've told them Plattner's a rapist, and if you vote for him, you're going to put a rapist in the Senate, are they not going to vote for Plattner? Listen now to Jenny Rassicot's answer. Roll cut 100, Mike.
There are going to be Democrats who say, I believe you, but I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm going to vote for him anyway. Because we need a progressive voice in the United States Senate. Are you going to be okay with that? Are you going to be able to handle that? I'm not saying it's the right answer or the right response, but...
No, I have friends who feel that way. And that's been a hard pill to swallow. And I guess I need to not ask, potentially. Maybe I need to not ask in order to not care what they do.
I don't want to ask my friends because if I ask, the answer is going to be, we'll take a rapist in the Senate as long as it's a vote against Donald Trump. These people are sick. I mean, I'm sorry, satanic, diabolical, demonic. I don't know what word you want to use, evil. So, yeah, he's a rapist. Yeah, I know. Okay, he raped you. Yeah, and you're my friend. We go back 20, 30, 40 years. Yeah. I'm going to vote for him. Why? We got to stick it to Trump. You're going to send a Nazi rapist to the Senate? Because you're that consumed with sheer hatred for Donald Trump? Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. Look, let me just put my cards on the table, okay? What they're really saying then is this. Because to me, rape is up there with murder. You may disagree with me, but to me, I think rape is a very serious offense. Okay, it's right up there with murder. To me, I believe in the death penalty for murder and for rape. Okay, that's just me. And obviously treason. If you're willing to say, I'll vote for someone knowing he's a rapist and most likely a serial rapist, because remember what Plattner said to one of his girlfriends, the one that he used to, abuse, that he wants to rape an intruder who comes into the house. That's one of his sexual fantasies. Forget the porta potties where he's, playing with himself in the porta potties because he just has a fetish for the porta potties. Okay, forget all that sick, perverted stuff. He was into rape, and he said, yeah, I want to rape an intruder because it's about dominance. It's about power. Well, it's pretty obvious now, according to Jenny Rassicot, that that extended to women as well. Rape them. It's about the power. It's about being dominant. So you're looking at potentially now a serial rapist. Okay, let's be honest. Okay, allegedly, an alleged serial rapist. You're going to vote for that because they're a communist? Because they're part of the Democratic Socialists of America? Because you're going to stick it to Donald Trump? Basically, then what they're saying is we'll vote for a murderer. Well, yeah, he's a murderer. Yeah, he's a stone cold murderer. Hell, he may even be a serial killer, a serial murderer. But hey, if it's a vote to take back the Senate, and so we can impeach and convict Donald Trump, I forget who said it. I read, because Sandy always sends me a great package of stories. I do my own research, obviously, but Sandy helps out as the executive producer, and she always sends me a great package of stories. So, I'm show prepping all the time. So I can't remember who said it, but someone said, and it goes, I'm not saying this tongue in cheek. If Donald Trump came out and said, I hate Adolf Hitler. I hate Hitler's guts. I hate everything Hitler stood for. I hate Nazism. I hate Hitlerism. I hate Nazi Germany. I can't stand them. And I want the whole country to stand with me in hating Adolf Hitler. They would back Hitler just to oppose Trump. No joke. They would say, Adolf's our guy. It wasn't that bad. I mean, he didn't kill all the Jews. Like, come on. Don't be too rough on the guy. It used to be satire. It's not satire anymore. They're that freaking crazy, and they're that freaking evil. Now, I want to play one more cut, and I want to go to the phone lines. This is Scott Jennings on CNN, and he makes an interesting point. When a conservative female came out and said, and she had a lot of evidence to back up her claims, the bruises, the marks, the eyewitnesses, that Plattner used to rough her up, that Plattner would squeeze her arm, twist it behind her back, drag her, yanking and screaming out of taxi cabs. He twisted her arm and would throw her into a bedroom and then lock the door and basically keep her hostage. Okay, when he did all that sort of stuff. Ro Khanna didn't care. Bernie didn't care. AOC didn't care. Chuck Schumer didn't care. Tim Walz didn't care. They campaigned for him. They continued endorsing him. They raised money for him. But again, the depths of their evil. Now that it's a lefty, a progressive, a socialist, a communist, one of them. Well, now, whoa, rape for thee, sexual assault and battery for thee, but not for me. Whoa. Hey, you can slap them around and mistreat them if they're conservatives. Then you don't listen to their complaints. But if it's one of ours, hey, the party, not so happy now. Roll cut 12, Mike.
People like Ro Khanna, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Tim Walz, the Bulwark, Pod Save America, all these people came together to overlook it all, to explain it all, to rationalize it all. He was vetted. People knew all these things. And a whole bunch of Democrats in Maine showed up and voted for him anyway. And a bunch of donors from around the country sent him money anyway. I agree with Alyssa's question. What changed? Why are you bailing on Graham Plattner now? You already signed off on Nazi tattoo, a self-described communist, somebody who's had rape fantasies, somebody who has been on a social media platform known as a playground for predators, and on and on and on and on and on. And the difference between this accuser and the previous one is simply this. She's a liberal. It's okay, I guess, for Democrats that their candidates assault conservatives. but he broke into someone's house and apparently, according to her, raped her. And because her politics are correct, they can now believe it.
Bingo. You see, it's not believe all women. No. If you're a conservative or center right or you're just not a Democrat, no. The party, we don't believe you. And he's right. He was thoroughly vetted. We all knew who the hell this guy was. They still voted for him. They still sent him money. Now, because you see, this is what's changed. Now he's not ahead. He's behind in the polls. Now that he's potentially a political loser. Now the Democrats suddenly believe all women. Now they back one of their own, Jenny Rassicot. Because now it's time to put the knife into him. 617-266-6868 and do the old switcheroo. Kick him out. And by the way, screw the voters. Again, shafting the voters. Talk about democracy. Suppress the voters in their will. And because remember, they had a chance to vote for Janet Mills. They don't want Janet Mills. They've had that governor for, a couple terms now. They can't stand her in Maine. But now they're probably going to force Janet Mills down their throat because they think she's more, quote, electable, unquote. Okay, very, very quick. This is from Mark on Messenger, and he gets to the heart of it. Jeff, doesn't this whole thing stink like a Democrat operation? Or is it just me? No, it's not you. This sounds and feels very much like a Democrat operation. Now, he continues. Now, I'm not saying that the accusations can't be true, but they knew Plattner wasn't going to beat Susan Collins. They saw his poll numbers slipping, his campaign cash dwindling. They've heard all the accusations and realized he was not going to win. So the Democrats are the ones who told this woman, Jenny Rassicot, come out and accuse him of rape, plain and simple. And if you decide not to drop out, the Democrats or lose their freaking minds and they'll go in full panic mode. But if he doesn't drop out, Jeff, will the Democrat voters still vote for him? Or will they lose trust in the Dumbocrat politicians? Look, if he doesn't drop out, my prediction, I'm going to say 46 to 48%, maybe even 49% of Maine voters are still going to vote for him. I think Collins will win because I think he sickens enough independents and just enough Democrats that it'll put her over the top because Maine is a Democratic state and Collins is a rhino's rhino. But still, I think enough independents, just enough Democrats. But you think Bill in Sudbury wouldn't vote for this guy? And there's an army of them up there. You think Chris in Gloucester wouldn't vote for this animal? They'd be happy to pull the lever for this guy. So even if he stays, it's still going to be a tight race. She's going to win. But you're going to be shocked how many Democrats, knowing that he's now an alleged rapist on top of everything else, they're still going to pull the lever for this guy. They could stay home and just not vote. No. They're still going to vote for this guy. Okay, very quickly, this is from 781. You can text the Kuhner Man, 70470, 70470, 781. Jeff, the big question for me is why would so many Democrats in Maine vote for Plattner when everyone knew who and what he is? This is a systemic problem with Democrats, and this includes the media, which reinforced and downplayed the reputation of this creep. When it comes to power, the Democrats are craven. No question. No question. No. Look, I'll go even further. I'll bet you the best steak at the best steakhouse of your choice. And please, don't take me up on this bet because I'm telling you you're going to lose. And I don't want you to pay for $100 steak. Okay? I don't. They knew about the rape allegations a while ago. They covered it up. They knew about what Rassicot had to say. Rassicot, forgive me. They knew what Jenny Rassicot had to say. They knew about these rape allegations. They sat on it. They were going to send a rapist to the Senate. And then when his polls went sideways and the cash dried up, then they went to her and said, you know what, Jenny, I think it's time to tell your story. So there's no question. You know, they can feign surprise all they want. They knew and they didn't care because the only thing they care about is power and winning and obviously destroying Donald Trump. As long as he could win, they didn't care. Now that he can't win, they want him out. Agree, disagree? Bob in Bedford. Thanks for holding, Bob, and welcome.
Jeff, she got paid.
Now, I'm just curious. What makes you say that, Bob?
Well, something has to be in it for her. She's not just going to come out. There have to be a collaboration and say, hey, you know what? We'll pay you. I don't know what they paid her, just like they did with Bernie. I still think she got paid by them.
Well, you know, they do that. I mean, we saw that with Bernie. They paid him handsomely to drop out both times, 2016 and 2020. So that's how the Democrat, they buy you off. There's no question. Bob, if I could just drill down just one level lower with you, do you believe her? I mean, they could pay her. They could pay her to be quiet. And then when it was time to take him out, they pay her to open her mouth. But do you believe her allegations? I'm just curious. Yes or no?
I'm skeptical about, yeah, I guess so. I mean, not, good question. I'm just saying that, you know, if this guy is that kind of a kinky sexual person, the women he's with probably have the same, you know, predilections. But
well, yeah, no, Bob, look, he's a pervert. I mean, a self-admitted pervert. I mean, I didn't want to go over all the stuff he's admitted to. So, you know, you hang out with this guy, you sleep with this guy, you have a relationship with this guy. You know what they say, birds of a feather flock together. You know, the only thing is, I think you're referring to E. Jean Carroll, when E. Jean Carroll said that, you know, women fantasize about rape. You know, that's the alleged, you know, that's the one that alleged that Trump raped her. To me, that statement alone showed what a liar she is. But anyway, no, women don't fantasize about rape. Well, maybe some do, but, you know, the overwhelming majority of women definitely do not fantasize about rape. But, you know, you look at the crowd that he ran with. Look, what was it? The app that he was on, okay, that which I had never heard of until that story broke. That's an app where child sex predators often go to. You know, the app with him and the towel around his private parts and everything else is naked and he's sending pictures of himself. And the question is, were these underage girls? I mean, that's the kind of guy you're sleeping with, you know? And the guy's going on, he's giving you his rape fantasies about how he wants to rape intruders and, you know, he's fascinated by rape and rape is about dominance and he loves the power and, you know, and you're having a relationship with this guy? You know, to be honest, that's why I tend to believe her. Because everything that I've seen of him, heard of him from his own mouth. I mean, A, the guy's a pervert. B, the guy's a pig. And C, I think the guy's a psychopath. So, to me, look, let's forget anything else. Okay? Just forget anything else. The moment that Nazi tattoo came out, an SS Death's Head tattoo for 20 years. 20 years. And remember, why does he cover it up? Because now he's going to run for the Senate. Otherwise, he'd keep it on. He loves it. And he told girlfriend after girlfriend after girlfriend. And that's another thing. I'm sorry. Who sleeps with a guy? It's a morning show. I got to be careful. But who sleeps with a guy with a freaking SS tattoo on his chest? Call me crazy. Forget. I've never looked at another woman except my wife. Okay. I love my wife and I love my family. But just, if I'm single and I'm on the dating scene and I have a girlfriend or whatever, and she has a Nazi SS tattoo, I'm like, whoa. I'm running for the door. I'm like, no, whoa, 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 whoa. Hey, there's something seriously wrong upstairs. I don't know, and I don't want to know. Bye-bye. So, to me, the Nazi tattoo is the disqualifier. These women were sleeping with him, no problem. In fact, when you further interview them, they found it sexy. They often said, no, it was sexy. It was charismatic. To put Jews in gas ovens is sexy? Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. Bob, thank you very much for that call. And most of these, there were a few conservative women he slept with, but the overwhelming majority were all these far left progressive women. Remember, Elizabeth Warren said, that's my kind of man. She even said it. He's sexy. Everybody wants to sleep with this guy. And I guess, I don't know, is it the anti-Semitism? Is it the Jew hatred? I don't know what it is. But these women, they see that freaking Death's Head SS Nazi tattoo and they just want to tear his clothes off. We're on the same theme, obviously. The Democrats have lost their soul. I think there's no question. There's something very evil, as almost satanic now inside the party. And you can see it again and again. So Graham Plattner is Exhibit A. But they're so desperate to get Trump. They're so consumed with hatred for the president that they will excuse and forgive the inexcusable and the unforgivable, including, as we were just talking about, voting for a rapist, an alleged rapist, and knowing that that person is a rapist or believing that person is a rapist and still voting for that person to go to the Senate. In other words, they're willing to do anything. Well, listen now to this story, as I'm sure most of you are familiar with. The United States yesterday, after an incredible run at the FIFA World Cup, the U.S. men's national team, doing better than expected, lost in the round of 16 to a very good Belgium team. That team is a top 10 team with a lot of stars on it, and they may go very deep into the tournament. Okay. Anyway, so Team USA lost. They did not play their best game, and they went down. They lost 4-1, which I watched the game. I watched all of it, and I was very disappointed. However, I was proud of them for going this far. Now, why am I mentioning all this? You're going to say, Jeff, what does this have to do with the Democrats hating Trump, the Democrats having lost their soul, willing to do and say anything just to go after the president? Well, in their previous game, the one they won against Bosnia-Herzegovina, their star player, his last name is Balogun, was shown a red card after he made a challenge on a Bosnian player that slightly, and I mean slightly, sprained his ankle. The Bosnian player was fine. In fact, the Bosnian player played the whole game. But the referee came in and showed Balogun a red card, which in soccer means it's the highest or the worst penalty you can get. You're immediately ejected from the game, which means your whole team is playing one man down, which in soccer is a big thing. And that kept Team USA on the ropes for the rest of the game, and they still ended up winning. But what it also does is you're not just ejected from that game. You're also ejected or not allowed to play in the following game, i.e. the game yesterday against Belgium. Now, Balogun, arguably, is Team USA's best player. He's clearly their best striker and their best scorer. He's lightning. He's like a speed demon on the field. Okay, he is fast as hell. So, obviously, Team USA playing a powerful Belgium squad without Balogun, you can't say it's automatic they're going to lose, but the odds are really stacked against them. With Balogun, they had a chance. They lost with Balogun, but they had a chance. So what did President Trump do? President Trump saw the red card, saw the video replay, and concluded, like 99% of the world concluded, that was my opinion, that was Mike's opinion, he watched that game against Bosnia, that wasn't even a yellow card. Forget a red card. Okay, yellow card is you get one yellow. If you get a second yellow, then you're kicked out of the game. So yellow is for a bit of a reckless challenge, or you come in and you're a little bit rough, or you inadvertently hurt a player, but it's not intentional. A red card is you're looking to damage that person. It's a deliberate, malicious challenge, either at the ankle or the knees, or you elbow someone and smash their face or whatever. Balogun clearly was not intending to hurt that Bosnian player. It was an inadvertent foul. It clearly wasn't intentional. It was basically a foul. That's it. It wasn't a yellow card. It certainly wasn't a red card. In other words, it was a gross injustice. President Trump, now, to be fair, no one's ever done this before, but that's Trump. He thinks out of the box. Called up the head of FIFA and said to him, hey, look, I just saw this, the match with Bosnia. I just saw the replay of that red card. Could you take a look at this and do a review? Because that's not a yellow. As Trump said, that's barely a foul. There's no way this thing's a red card. And could you take a look? And if you agree with me, obviously rescind the red card so Balogun can play against Belgium. Now, you would think that a president standing up for the nation's soccer team. All right, this has now become the biggest story in the entire world. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not kidding. So President Trump makes a phone call to the president of FIFA, who he happens to know. And all he tells the president of FIFA is, could you just review that red card call? Look at the video. You'll see what I mean. He goes, it's not a red card. Hell, it's not even a yellow card. And if you believe it's not a red card, can you then, rescind it? Because we need this guy Balogun for the big game against Belgium yesterday. Now, listen to President Trump. He's asked by reporters. They've been all over this. You would think this is the second coming of Watergate. He said, yeah, I picked up the phone. I called and I said, would you take a look and review the red card? Roll cut 13, Mike.
He didn't do anything wrong, and he's our best player or one of our best players. A very vital player. And he gave him a red card. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't think it meant much. Then I started hearing that means he can't play in the next game, at least in the next game. I said, boy, that's a big, if it happened to another player, it would have been unfair, but when they take your best player, or just about, they have some great players, and they say you can't play, that's very unfair. That's, it's one thing to penalize somebody for the game, but how do you penalize them for a game that hasn't been played yet? It's very unfair. You can't do that. So, yes, I asked for a review by FIFA. I spoke to a man who's highly respected.
Yeah. In other words, he spoke to the president of FIFA. And he said, "Can you take a look at it?" Now, I'm telling you, please look at the foul yourself. Go online. You'll see what I mean. Everybody, and I mean practically everybody, unless you're blind. Or you're so, you're willfully blind because you're consumed with TDS, Trump Derangement Syndrome. You're like, that's not a red card. That's not even a yellow card. That's okay. Maybe a foul, I guess. So, in other words, it was a clear, gross injustice. It was wrong. And finally, a president, a leader of a country finally said, you know what? No, I'm not putting up with this. Our boys got robbed. It was a horrible call. By the way, FIFA is notoriously corrupt. Their referees are notoriously corrupt for throwing games or getting people kicked out of games or giving them red cards they don't deserve, so they're out of that game or they're going to be out of the next game. And Trump picked up the phone and said, blank you, no, I want you to take a look at it. No, he didn't threaten him. He didn't say we're going to, you're going to sleep in the, like Luca Brasi, you're going to be sleeping with the fishes. He just said, look, can you take a look at it? Because to me, this is blatantly unfair. Now, FIFA sided with Trump. Okay, almost unprecedented. Not unprecedented, but almost unprecedented. Because they have rescinded red cards in the past. Okay, for big players, special players. FIFA came out and said, no, we side with President Trump. He's right. And they rescinded the red card, meaning Balogun could play, and he did play, against Belgium yesterday. I am telling you, when I say a public firestorm erupted, it is an understatement. It became overnight the biggest story in the world. The liberal media going berserk. The Europeans, especially the European left, apoplectic. The sports media, and they're the worst in this country. ESPN, Fox, all these woke idiots. This is so unfair. How dare they rescind the red card? That's just not done. You have to respect the referee. You have to respect the system. And so, listen to this. By the way, some Democrats were saying they should impeach Trump on this. This was corrupt. This was political interference. He's ruining soccer. This was wrong on every level. And I'm looking at all this and I'm like, okay, was it a clear injustice? Yes. Did Balogun deserve that red card? Absolutely not. Why can't a leader call up the head of FIFA and say, hey, look, you guys are going to decide what you're going to decide. But I'm telling you, that wasn't a yellow card or a red card or whatever. Could you guys take a look at it? Do me a favor. Because my countrymen, and countrywomen, my fellow Americans, they're livid about this. This is going to maybe cost us the game and cost us a run in the World Cup. Now, when you see injustice done to your team, to your country, and remember, they're representing the United States. And whatever you think of soccer as a sport, and I know many of you say it's like watching grass grow. I get it. But the FIFA World Cup is the Super Bowl pales in comparison in terms of viewership. You're looking at 3.5, maybe 4 billion viewers around the world. No other sport comes close. It is the biggest international stage in sports, probably in anything. All eyes are on the United States. We're the co-host. This is going to be, yesterday's game was the biggest game in U.S. soccer history. And we're not going to be playing with our best player? Not because he's injured or there was a justified red card. That's something else. But because a shady referee decided to stick it to Uncle Sam, and they often do that to American players, and give him a bogus BS red card that anybody looks at and says, no, that's clearly not a red card. So Trump is standing up for our country, our players in the World Cup, and gets a horrible decision rescinded. And yet he's the ogre? He's the bad guy? He's the dictator? He's the monster? The left went ballistic. I want you to listen now. This is Kate Andrews from the Washington Post. She goes on MS Now. She's one of their sports writers. Roll cut 16. Mike.
Other teams will not be happy about this, but the biggest impact that this has is USA soccer fans. I think the president has misunderstood the beautiful game. Part of it is that you don't always get the call you want. There's real disappointment. There's the hope that kills you. This is part of the beauty of soccer. And the point is that you have to triumph over what are often perceived to be unfair calls. If you were watching England play last night, they got a red card, but you don't see the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom calling up to ask for that to be changed, not least because England has gone through and they continue to be in the knockout rounds. I think the biggest disappointment for me anyway, I'm sure for a lot of Americans, is if the USA continues to advance, and this is one of their best World Cups in decades. I think a lot of people out there will feel like it was unfair, like they didn't actually win it, because part of it is that you have to overcome the adversity and what are perceived to sometimes be unfair calls. You can't have people calling up, making a phone call in your favor to get you the win.
This is unbelievable. First of all, England did end up winning, even though they got a red card. Number two, it was a justified red card. Everybody knows and sees it was a justified red card. That's, so all her arguments are ridiculous. But to me, so her arguments are silly. But let that go, as I like to say. It's going to taint the run of the United States? Well, now, nobody's going to really vote for the United States. No one's going to root for the U.S., Well, why not? Because now it's tainted. Because the president made a phone call. Well, why? Where does it say that the president can't make a phone call? Show me the law. What rule says that the president of the United States or any country can't call and complain to one of the most notoriously corrupt bodies in the world? Like, why do we have to accept corruption in soccer? Why do we have to accept blatant bad calls or injustice in soccer? In other words, just because Biden would take it lying down or Obama would take it lying down doesn't mean Trump has to take it lying down. I mean, don't you want your president to fight for your country, to fight for your team, to fight for your players, especially when they've been screwed and in a blatant way? It got even worse. Because of FIFA's decision to revoke the red card and let Balogun play, I swear to you, the Democrats, the left, the media began to root against Team USA. You want to see how bad it's now gotten? They literally started to root and cheer against their own country. Okay, so I want you to listen. I could play cut after cut after cut. Woke analyst on ESPN, on Fox, it didn't matter. MS Now, CNN, New York Times, Washington Post, Democrat after Democrat. They're not rooting for Team USA. They want the American side to lose. How dare Donald Trump make that phone call? They've tainted the team. They've put a jinx or a curse on the team, and they don't want to root for Team USA anymore. It's now anybody but Team USA. They were actually cheering for Belgium yesterday. So this is the state of the Democratic Party right now. This is how far they've lost their soul. They won't even root for their own country in the FIFA World Soccer Cup being co-hosted here in the United States on American soil. I want you to listen now. This is Dave Zirin on Joy Reid's podcast, Roll Cut 17, Mike.
It speaks to something that I think you're talking about more broadly, which is the World Cup is politics by other means. it is informed politically, and it is created politically for the simple reason that we do have this world of unequal nations, and we do have this sport that the entire world watches. And when you imbue that incredible global viewership with the politics of colonialism and empire, it's impossible to extricate the two. And it is what makes it so painful. And so it's like today, it's the United States against Bosnia. And I find myself really wishing the United States was actually playing a team from the global South.
Yeah.
So I truly root with even more fervor. Exactly. To see them get knocked down a peg, because we know how it's going to be exploited if they go forward in the cup.
Unbelievable. By the way, colonialism and imperialism. Trump makes a phone call to the FIFA president. This is colonialism. This is imperialism. My God. My God. So he's, no, look, listen to them. No, I'm just sorry they're going to lose to a European team like Belgium. I wish they lost to, I don't know, South Africa or Senegal or Tunisia or Algeria or take your pick. Someone from some country from the, quote, global South. These people are sick. They're sick. So you want to openly root against your own country? Because Donald Trump got a red card rescinded. And by the way, it wasn't just that it was an unjust red card. It was, this supposed white supremacist, and I'm not the only one that's making this point. What do they keep saying about Donald Trump? He's a white supremacist, racist, neo-Nazi, blah, blah, blah. Have you seen Balogun? His parents are from Nigeria. He's of Nigerian ancestry. Forgive me, you don't get blacker than Florian Balogun. So here's a white supremacist, alleged white supremacist, going to bat to rescind a red card for a black player, the star player, one of the star players on Team USA. Boy, I've never seen a white supremacist like this in my life. And by the way, if you really want to get into it, Balogun is an anchor baby. He's an anchor baby. I thought they loved anchor babies. I thought they were all about anchor babies. I thought they were the best of us. They were the dreamers. Balogun's parents from Nigeria were visiting. The mother was visiting. Don't quote me on this. It's either her sister or her sister-in-law. Anyway, some member of her family. And she came when she was pregnant with, with little Balogun. And, she was staying here for like a month or whatever, and plop, out came out the baby. And so Balogun was born on American soil, and because of that, he was given automatic American citizenship. But his roots are in Nigeria, and they eventually took him to England, where he was raised in England. In fact, he plays soccer at the English Premier League. He plays soccer in England. And so when it came to playing for World Cup teams, Balogun could have played, listen to this, for 3 countries. Nigeria, the land of his ancestors, England, the country he was raised in, or the United States, the country that he was born here for a couple weeks. After about 2-3 weeks, she took him back on a plane to England. So here is Trump going to bat for a black guy, unfairly treated, unjustly treated, by the supposed white supremacists. That's how much of a Klansman and neo-Nazi he is, a racist he is, who's also an anchor baby. You can't make this up. And the left is against Trump. And because of this, they rooted against Team USA. Now, if you're going to root against your own country in the midst of the FIFA World Cup being held on American soil, I don't know what else to say. I mean, there's nothing left to say. As I said earlier, if Trump came out against Adolf Hitler, they would love Adolf Hitler. whatever this guy does, they don't just oppose, they embrace with everything they have. And I think that to me shows just how morally bankrupt, frankly, how soulless, how evil they've become. Now, let me just give you one other point, and then I want to go to the phone lines. 617-266-6868. By the way, I want to ask all of you, should Trump have made the phone call to the FIFA president? I'm just curious. Do you think he was out of line? Was he out of bounds? Was this a form of political interference or corruption? Should he have just let the call stand as other leaders have done in the past? Because he's unprecedented in the fact that he picked up the phone and said, "Hey, could you just review that red card? Because I don't think it's fair." So did Trump make a mistake in your view, or did he do the right thing? I say he completely did the right thing. I think it's about time that people stood up to these corrupt FIFA referees and to this corrupt system in FIFA. And if other prime ministers or other leaders want to do it, if it's a blatant injustice like what we saw against Balogun, yeah, I don't have a problem with that. Why shouldn't they? But that's me. I want to hear from you. 617-266-6868. Did Trump cross the line? And the world is now, at least the left, is attacking the president, vilifying the president. Europeans are livid, especially the European left. The American left says it actually could be an impeachable offense, that he has tainted this World Cup permanently, and he has tainted Team USA and everything they've achieved. Agree, disagree. Now, one more, and then I want to go to the phone lines. Not only now are Democrats rooting against Team USA. Openly now, it's against their own country. Senator Mark Kelly from Arizona, a member of the Seditious Six. Remember, he was one of those senators and members of Congress who put out that infamous video telling members of the military and the intelligence community to, quote, refuse or disobey illegal orders. You remember that? Well, over 4th of July weekend, while we were cheering on Team USA and watching the fireworks and having a cookout and enjoying the 4th and all the patriotism and the Americana, do you know what Senator Mark Kelly was doing? Senator Mark Kelly, you can look this up, went to a Mexico World Cup watch party in Tucson, Arizona. And you're going to say, Jeff, what the hell is a United States Senator, a retired captain of the U.S. Navy? I thought he took an oath to defend and protect the United States. I thought his first loyalty was to the United States. No. What is he doing at a Mexican World Cup watch party? Well, he went to a Mexican World Cup watch party and was wearing a Mexico soccer jersey. The color of their jersey is green. And you can see in the picture hundreds of other Mexico soccer fans all wearing the same green colored jersey. And this clown, Kelly, takes a picture of himself with some woman, I don't know who she is, right beside him, all over him, and a sea of Mexican fans. And he's wearing the Mexican jersey, a foreign country's jersey. And he's saying how much he supports Mexico. And how in Tucson and La Rosa, the Mexican soccer fans really know how to throw a party as they're watching the World Cup. They don't even hide it anymore. At least 20, 30 years ago, he would wear the Mexican jersey, but inside his house. Now, it's not just in public. He actually takes a photo of himself, taking a photo of himself with a Mexican soccer jersey, rooting for the Mexican national team in their game that they lost eventually against England. But he's rooting for Mexico against England. When I saw that, I'm like, well, that says it all. I mean, that really says it all. I guess what? The cartels? He was showing his patriotism to the Mexican drug cartels that basically control southern Arizona. And, as many people pointed out, especially in Arizona, you take away the illegal aliens, especially the illegals that are coming in from Mexico. And Senator Mark Kelly can't win an election if his life depended on it. So what he did was blatant, naked pandering. Let me go not just into the Mexican community, but into the Mexican community where there's a ton of illegals. And let me put on a foreign nation's jersey, their nation's jersey, to show to them my allegiance is to Mexico. It is not to the United States. I'm looking at this and I'm like, you're an American senator, for God's sake. You can't put on a Team USA jersey? That's too much for you? To root for your own country? No, that's too much for you Democrats now? So let me ask you, let me throw this log on the fire. 617-266-6868 is the number. Should a member of Congress, a U.S. senator, be wearing a jersey of a foreign team in the midst of a World Cup where the United States is still playing? In fact, Mexico is one of their arch rivals in soccer, and the cup is being hosted on American soil. Should a senator wear a foreign country's jersey and proudly display it? Or do you think that is an act of treason? And that's what many people were saying on social media, that's the act of a traitor. That's the act of someone who clearly is putting the interests of a foreign country over our own, and that he should be ashamed of himself. I agree. What say you? 617-266-6868 is the number. Rocco on the North Shore. Thanks for holding, Rocco, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeffrey. I think President Trump was completely correct in interceding in the World Cup game, and senators that support other countries instead of our own are completely anti-American. In fact, there's a phenomenon right now to anything the president does to benefit America or its citizens, no matter how important or inconsequential, will be discarded and put down. Think about it. This Democratic Party is now, they've got a fake Indian, a real Nazi, thousands of anti-Semitic communists, and a capitalist Jewish man with 3 homes on Lake Champlain that hates communists and endorses a Nazi. And if I may just briefly say something about Platner in Maine, perhaps I'm a bit more conservative than most, but in my day, if someone pleasured themselves in a public urinal while looking at social media, they would be banned and disqualified from the election. They would also be put in an insane asylum for 30 years, and if they ever got out, they would be completely banned from ever using a public restroom facility for life.
Rocco, that is a great... You're doing a Winston Churchill accent, correct?
I'm trying, yeah.
You're doing a great job. That is amazing. That is really good. That is really good. Rocco, are you shocked? No, really, are you just shocked that you would have all of these liberals and Democrats, including members of Congress. Now, they're just coming out and saying, no, we're rooting against Team USA. Elizabeth Warren now came out and said she's rooting against Team USA because of Trump's decision to call FIFA and demand that ask that the red card be rescinded. And by the way, whatever you think of Team, and they didn't play their best game yesterday, but this is a very likable team. The country's rallied around this team, a lot of unity, a lot of patriotism, very moving scenes. I don't know if you watched any of the games, but the fans singing Country Roads after the game. It's almost become like the team's unofficial anthem. Just how it's brought the country together. And there's just some really likable, good players on that team. A lot of pride, a lot of patriotism, brought about unity. And they just go out there and now say they're going to root for anyone but the United States because our president decided to undo an injustice. Rocco, I'm just curious. What's your take?
They've fallen so far into depravity. I'm not amazed at them. What I'm amazed at is the media in Hollywood still supports them no matter what they do. They can be anti-Semitic. They can be anti-American. There are thousands of Americans that have been murdered by illegals, and they just keep acting like it never happened, just keep pushing their agenda, get that power, praising the guy with the tattoo, okay? Anne Frank went to, I read it in 7th grade, teacher made us read it. She went to a torture chamber for a couple months before they gassed her. I mean, he's supporting these people. It's just insanity.
Rocco, I couldn't have said it better myself. And that is a really good Churchill accent impression. Rocco, thank you very much for that call. Brian in Hull, thanks for holding, Brian, and welcome.
Hello. Sorry, hold on a second. I was driving. There we go.
Go ahead, Brian.
Well, the thing is that what we have to realize, nothing surprises me anymore. Okay, the thing is that forget about them being anti-American, anti-Semitic, all of that. Okay, they're stupid. When the barbarians are at the gate, they're not going to ask you if you're a Democrat or Republican. They're going to cut your head off because you're an American. Are they that suicidal that they're letting in the barbarians? Okay, and they're not at the gate anymore. Okay, they're inside the gate. Okay, they're way past the gate. And they think that because they let them in that they're not going to reap the whirlwind from it. I mean, how stupid are they?
That's the thing. That's what's scary, Brian. They really are that stupid. And how do I say this? I think what's just shocking to so many people, I mean, I guess after a while you get used to it, but what's still shocking to many people is you have a U.S. senator who served in the military, served in the Navy, he's a captain or a retired captain, and you put on the jersey of a foreign country, and you're rooting for that foreign country? The very country that's allowing all these illegals to pour into your state? Never mind your country, your state. And you're saying, no, I'm rooting for Mexico. I'm not rooting for Team USA. What? Or now because your president fought for your players and fought for your team to undo such a blatant injustice, and all of a sudden now you're coming out and saying anybody but the United States. I don't want Team America to win. I want the United States to lose. So you want us to fail at a World Cup being held in our country on our soil. There's something seriously wrong with these people. You know, it's the same phenomenon, Brian. They fly the Somali flag instead of the American flag on our Independence Day, or the Haitian flag, or the Chinese flag, or it doesn't matter. It's flags from any other country that they will salute, but not that of the United States. And this is now the modern Democratic Party. And let me just say one other thing. I want to come back to you, Brian. You know, they said this about Kelly. Many of the people on social media, they go, no, the jersey you really want to wear is the red jersey from the China soccer team, the Chinese Communist soccer team. They just didn't qualify for the World Cup. So you got to go with Mexico. 617-266-6868 is the number. Jennifer in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Jennifer, and welcome.
So, hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Jennifer?
I'm great. So my take on this is that I think we're like falling into the left's trap by sitting here and getting upset with what the senator is doing in Arizona. When we are like, he needs to be impeached, he needs to be removed for office, that is the left's response to anything we do on our side, especially with President Trump. The more opportunities for us to be separated from each other leaves a wider gap for foreign entities like China, like anyone who wants to bring harm to our country, allowing them to divide us even further than where we are at this point. I don't agree with what the Arizona senator did. He should not be wearing another country's jersey. He should be supporting our country through all things. But to get to the point where he needs to be removed for treason or whatever, that's just what the left does. That's how they react to things that they feel the slightest, disagreement for. So that's my take on it. I love you so. Thank you for taking my call.
Oh, Jennifer, let me ask you this, Jennifer. I clearly understand where you're coming from. I think this is and I don't think they're saying impeach him as in formally impeach him. I think what they're basically saying is if he had any honor, he should resign. I think that's, and they're calling him a clown who should resign. But Jennifer, I think this is why it's not, how do I say this? There was a team called Cape Verde, an island of 500,000, and they shocked the world in this World Cup. They tied Spain, they tied Uruguay, they almost defeated Argentina in the knockout round. It's a small island off the coast of Africa, 500,000 people. Had they beaten Argentina, it would have been the greatest upset in the history of soccer. And they captured everybody's hearts, everybody, because it was the ultimate David versus Goliath. And so, if he put on a jersey of Cape Verde as an example, I'm just using them, everybody would say, yeah, we're all rooting for this ultimate underdog. This team that has no business even making it to the World Cup. And yet they're playing some of the biggest, strongest, mightiest teams. And they're holding their own again and again and again. I mean, the United States fell in love with them. The world fell in love with them. People would say, I get it. I understand. It's, you're getting caught up in a larger theme of, hey, anybody can win. Anything is possible. It's that he chose the flag of Mexico, or to be more accurate, the jersey of Mexico with the Mexican flag on it, because he's been a voice for Mexico for years as senator. He voted to keep Biden's border wide open. He votes against deportations every time. He votes against Trump's border wall. He votes to make Arizona a sanctuary state. He refuses to aggressively go after the Mexican drug cartels. Jennifer, to the point that the rumor is in Arizona, in Phoenix and Tucson, that basically he's taking Mexican drug cartel cash. They launder it, but basically that they're funding his campaigns, and that he clearly is defending the Mexican illegal alien community in Arizona, that the Mexican illegal aliens provide him the decisive votes to win. If he didn't have these Mexican illegal aliens, he couldn't win an election if his life depended on it. So what they're reacting to is that he's a fifth columnist, and that he's being a fifth columnist on behalf of Mexico. And by wearing the jersey, he's basically outed himself. I'm just curious, what do you say to that argument, Jennifer? Hence why everybody's so furious and so livid. But what do you say to that?
I totally understand that. Yes, when he says dumb things about the border, and I was livid when he did the whole video with the other senators saying that the soldiers should not listen to Trump for lawful orders. But I just don't see. I mean, I just don't see. We don't need to be getting this upset.
No, I understand. It's not an impeachable offense.
We can get.
No, I hear you. You're saying, look, Jeff, it's not impeachable. It's stupid. It's reprehensible, but it's not impeachable. No, I hear you. Jennifer, thank you so much for that call. I really appreciate it. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, I want to go to CJ in Boston, but just before I do, Sandy made a brilliant point to me while we were just off air. She said, prior to COVID, roughly 5 years ago, okay? Prior to 5 years ago, it didn't matter. Every state official, every federal official, it doesn't matter. Member of the cabinet, senator, member of Congress, it didn't matter, okay? Or governor, whatever, a state attorney general, a lieutenant governor, it didn't matter. Republican or Democrat, everyone wore an American flag pin on their lapel. In other words, it was just obvious. Your first allegiance is to the United States. And you're proud to be an American. And you're so proud you want to have that flag pin on your lapel for everybody to see. And everybody had one. It didn't matter. Whatever party, everybody had one. Have you noticed now you don't see those anymore? Or if you do see them, it's only MAGA or conservatives who tend to have an American, a pin on one's lapel. So it's almost like Democrats in particular have become embarrassed of the American flag, embarrassed of the United States, embarrassed to even be near an American flag, or to wear an American flag. And it's not just that. It's now, and what would have been unthinkable prior to COVID is to wear a jersey of a foreign country in the midst of the World Cup and to openly cheer them on. That would have been absolutely unthinkable any time before 5 years ago. So what you're clearly seeing is a Democratic Party that is not just becoming increasingly communist, increasingly anti-Semitic. There's no question about that. It's becoming increasingly anti-American and even un-American. And it's on issue after issue after issue to the point here. I just want you to listen here. You don't get clearer than this. Sunny Hostin on The View. She's considered, for many Democrats, she speaks for them. She's to me, one of the stupidest pundits on television, one of the most ignorant, historically ignorant pundits on television. But the Dems love her. They just love her. And they always go on The View. Democrat senator, Democrat leader, you name it, one after another. And they love Whoopi and they love Sunny and they love the whole gang. Well, one of the things that you saw with the World Cup is this outpouring of patriotism in the United States as we supported Team USA as they marched on from group stage to the knockout round to the round of 16. And so people are now displaying the flag. And you're starting to see American flags now in many areas. People are, just hanging them outside their home, especially also with the 250th anniversary, all of it combining together. There are many more flags being displayed on streets, in neighborhoods, in communities. I want you to listen now to Sunny Hostin because it's like a cross to a vampire. She sees an American flag and she's scared. She's petrified Because when she sees an American flag, you know what she sees? KKK. She sees white supremacy. She sees Hitler. Roll cut 19. Mike.
I said this on this show many, many years ago, because this is my 10th year on the show, and I said there are times when I walk into a community and I see American flags all over the community, and I suddenly feel unsafe because there is a section of this country that has co-opted the American flag, and they equate being an American or an American flag with white supremacy, and that should never be the symbol of white supremacy, but they have weaponized.
Because the flag belongs to all of us.
It does belong to all of us.
My God, are these people stupid? No, really, it's shocking how stupid they are. But now I feel unsafe when I see the American flag. Oh, my God. Now, this is communism. This is what we talked about on yesterday's show. The American flag is toxic to them. It's radioactive to them. Because the flag represents our freedoms, our liberty, July 4th, our independence, our Constitution, our culture, our history, our heritage, our incredible achievements as a nation and as a people. And so for them, it's anathema. And so they have to tear down every single national symbol, every single national institution, in order to bring about their far left, communist, increasingly Islamo-communist revolution. These people should be utterly ashamed of themselves. But notice, the Mexican flag, that's okay. The Haitian flag, that's okay. They're proud to wave it. The Somali flag, my God, they love the Somali flag. If you told Sonny Hostin or Whoopi Goldberg or Anna Navarro or whoever, go to little Somalia in Minnesota, do you feel threatened by all these Somali flags? No, we love it. The Ukrainian flag, oh, do they love the Ukrainian flag? The Palestinian flag, oh, Hamas and slaughtering Jews, that's okay. But the American flag, that is now verboten in liberal America. And let me just say one final thing. How can you root against Team USA? On any grounds. Okay? On any grounds. They're representing our country in a World Cup on our soil. My God, they did us so proud. They played so hard with so much passion and pride and determination and ferocity. Their coach is Maurizio Pochettino. He's an Argentinian, born and raised in Argentina. He's a Latino. The team itself is a completely multiracial, multi-ethnic team. Blacks, some of them, as I said, Balogun, Nigerian blacks, Latinos, white people, Asians, you name it. Black, brown, white, Asian, every ethnic, racial spectrum under the sun, all playing as one team, one unit, for one country, under one flag. I'm sorry, is it multiculturalism? Is it diversity? Isn't that what the left has been saying they want? Can you get a team more diverse than Team USA? Can you get a team more multicultural? One of them is actually an anchor baby. I'm serious. Balogun is an anchor baby. So, no. So it has everything what you claim you want. And even then, you can't support it. That tells you everything you need to know. They hate America, and they will always hate America. And that is now the new Democratic Party. It is a communist party to the core. CJ in Boston. Thanks for holding, CJ, and welcome.
Taken so long for the President of the United States to describe them.
as the Communist Party. I've been calling them the Democratic Communist Party for the last 10 years. As for Sonny Hoyston and the rest of those nitwits on The View, have they ever heard of the Southern Poverty Law Center? This is coming right off of their internet. The Southern Poverty Law is a catalyst of racial justice in the South and beyond, working in partnership with communities to dismantle white supremacy. Well, it comes to find out, they're accused right now of promoting white supremacy and their funding of white supremacy in the United States of America. Isn't that great, Sonny Hoyston? Why don't you bring that up in The View? As for Plattner in Maine, Jeff, I think the Department of Tourism up in Maine is lifting the travel advisory for people who drive through Maine. I guess it was an advisory.
CJ, can you please keep your powder dry? 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let's go right back to CJ in Boston. CJ, you were saying about Graham Plattner. He's finally, the media is waking up, or at least they're pretending to wake up to what you and Kuhner country and all of us have known for a long time. Please pick up where you left off.
Wondering, Jeff, he may not be running if the Maine Department of Tourism is going to lift up that travel advisory for travelers who are driving through Maine. Be very cautious on using those porta potties up there, because he may be sitting behind one of those with the door open, reading a comic book.
CJ, do you believe, I'm just curious, the allegations of that woman now, these explosive rape allegations by Jenny Rassicot, do you believe her?
Yes, I do. Absolutely. I think he's a lowlife, always has been. But, what else is the Democratic Communist Party going to scrape up to run for office? I mean, this guy's the bottom of the barrel. But you mentioned on Trump. I don't think Trump should have intervened here. The same as I don't think that recording artists or actors should get into politics. The president should have allowed management or the ownership to contact FIFA, on this issue. We have people like De Niro now who's turned against the country. We have Bruce Springsteen, who recently said that he's a patriot. Here's a guy who 35 years ago was singing Born in the USA. I heard he's going to have a new rendition. It's going to be called Born in the USSR. I mean, he's really turned the corner here. I don't know what it is, Jeff. I'm quite old, but I've been an independent voter for 55 years. Is it that when these people get older, I mean, is there a condition, whereas they turn liberal and Democrat and hate the country and everything it stands for? Jeff, we have an important election coming up here. And, you mentioned Senator Mark Kelly. You mentioned Seth Moulton. You mentioned these people here, and there's one common thread with them. These people are all military people. But just like Democrats, they would turn in their own mother. They would turn on their own honorable service to go against the principles of our country and the laws of our land in order to be Democrats. And that is truly a shame on America's 250th birthday. We should all be proud. But note that, who are these people who are against it? Who are these communists that are allowing this to happen in America? And everybody should call your neighbors who stand out in front with signs saying, get rid of ICE, abolish the police. You see the problems here in Boston we had over the weekend, multiple shootings. We have a mayor here who is giving money to illegal aliens, and she can't say how much in front of Congress and the Boston Police Department. They're down about 500 officers here. This is what happens, Jeff, when you have these liberals, communists, Democrats running the major cities in our country. And finally, Jeff, if anybody is wondering why it's taken so long for Ali Khamenei to have a burial, a 6-day funeral in Iran, well, apparently the United States of America has killed so many Iranian guards that Allah ran out of virgins.
Touche, CJ. Touche. CJ, thank you very much for that call. No, I think it's obvious. You look at Mamdani, you look at Bernie, you look at AOC, you look at Plattner. I can run down the whole list. All of these Democratic Socialists of America candidates who've won in these primaries. This is now a communist party. It's an anti-Semitic party. It's an anti-American party. And it's clearly now a communist socialist party. And communists and socialists do not like America. Look, as many of these Democrats have said, they are ashamed of the United States. And they've been polled, and over a majority of Democrats now prefer socialism to capitalism. And they openly say that they do not support the United States, that they are openly not proud to be an American. So a majority of Democrats now say that they dislike and despise the United States. That's all you need to know. One party is for America, the other party is against America. Sharon in Medford. I hate to do this to you, Sharon. 1 minute, go.
I'm going to make it fast. Where's the plan, Jeff? I want to constantly play Marvin Gaye's What's Going On, because I think basically the youth of today thinks this is a cool ideology. Free this, free that. They need to be groomed. What the Republicans need to do is definitely have speakers even like yourself to go around to tell them who really pays in the end.
We pay. And nothing is free in life. And it's the middle and the working class who end up paying. We're always the ones that get crushed.